Podcast Coug Season 6, Episode 7.
You are listening to the Podcast Coug Radio Network with your host, James Laurie. The Podcast Coug is your weekly Coug On Demand show featuring all things Cougs and Washington State Cougar football. And now, here is your host, Podcast Coug.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Podcast Coug. I am James Laurie, the Podcast Coug, and you are listening to the Podcast Coug, where we're all things Cougar football, 30 minutes of Coug talk, and we're talking about our win against Oregon State and our upcoming huge game against Stanford on Saturday in Pullman. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Season 6, Episode 7. Okay, it was Washington State 34, Oregon State 21, and it was Oregon State's 4-game winning streak that came to an end, right? Came to an end, crushed their desires to run the table for their conference game Saturday. 31-24 loss to the Cougs in Pullman on homecoming. It was just great. It's our first of our 3 home games stand. Very exciting, right? We got Oregon State down, knock them down. We got Stanford on Saturday, and then BYU right around the corner. And you know who the real Cougs are, right? So, hey, how about those Cougs? 8th straight over Oregon State. 8 in a row, right? I always say, we own Oregon State. The Huskies owns Washington State. And Oregon owns Washington. All right, that's simple as that, right? So it's another homecoming, happy homecoming. Rolovich 2-0 against Oregon State, 2 years in a row as head coach. And you talk about defense, right? We kind of broke through our play with a ton of confidence that we saw on Saturday, and we need to do that offensively too. Now, Jaden Delora, 399 passing yards, career high, 3 TDs and a pick. And then, of course, we made it up in the second half. Really kind of a first half was just nothing. I mean, contrast to the second half, right? I mean, good going Cougs, because it was a big win, especially, coming off last week, right, from that Cal, trying to build up that momentum and that win in Berkeley. And then we were able to knock off the only team that didn't have a loss in the North. What a game, and what a great second half. We heard a lot from the Beavers fans just all over Martin, both before and after the game, of course, saying how great we are as hosts and nice people, and everybody, it's true. We treated our friends from Oregon, right, from Corvallis, very nice, and they just had, there were a lot of visitors up, and I thought they were going to win. I thought really Oregon State was just going to run it down our throats. I think their ground game, I didn't think we were going to able to contain their ground game. What about our defense, right? So pretty cool. So ultimately, I now think that we have from Jake Dickert, our defense, that that's our blueprint from Jake Dickert, right? And that's how you take on Oregon State. Yeah, you load up the box. It's going to be difficult, but you might as well run the ball down your throat and try to make up the quarterback beat you. I mean, that's what Jake Dickert talked about throughout the whole week, is trying to make the number 10 beat us, right? To be honest with you, it came down to those critical moments. Chance Nolan, number 10, kind of struggled down to the stretch. Oregon State's truly going to find themselves with the ability to win the Pac-12 North. They've got to be able to win at the quarterback position. If they're going to take this to the Pac-12 North, and in moments, there was just some, I think, we just got to number 10. I mean, it's simple as that. You can't put Chance Nolan at 3rd and long and put pressure on him and just throw it up and win the game. That's not his forte. That's not going to happen. And that's what we forced him to do. Oregon State needs to run. They have their run game, right? We took them out of their run game, really, and we held them on the 5-yard line, time running out. Big job on our defense getting the job done, finishing and holding Oregon State to a turnover on downs. It was just great. Again, great job for our guys putting up the effort, flying around, putting pressure on Chance Nolan and stopping the run. Nice. Couldn't have said it better. Just awesome defense. Interesting is that Oregon State's defense is made up of numerous plays, in the first half that the Beavers held us 10-3. They had a 10-3 lead at halftime. Beavers completely took away our running game, right? Holding the Cougs to just 19 yards, 19 rushing yards for the first half, right? If you're going to say, hey, Washington State's going to have 19 yards on the ground on the first half, you would think, okay, there's another loss, right? There you go. But you know what? Who showed up in the second half? Who finished? Who doesn't look like honestly, he looks like a good coach. It's all the controversy going on. I have to say, though, he hasn't looked any better, and this was his best win, best game for de Laura. Oregon State defense dominated on third downs, allowing the Cougs to convert to just 2 of 8 third downs on that first half, right? One of the key moments just came before halftime when the Beaver defense kept us from scoring after Chance Nolan's pass was picked off on the sideline by George Hicks. So the Cougs took over at the Oregon State 28, less than a minute in the half. 2 plays later, the Cougs had a 1st and goal and at the 4-yard lines, but the Beavs forced 2 incompletions, and on third down, they tipped off a pass to de Laura, and linebacker Omar Spites came down with the ball and had a clear path down the sideline for a possible touchdown. But, he stepped out of bounds and gathered, and then he got his balance back up for the catch. So Oregon State did not have the same success defensively after halftime. I mean, they had their best performance, obviously, the first half. Defense-wise, second half, no. Now, Washington State scored touchdowns on all 4 of its second half possessions prior to the final knee, right? The kneel down, close out the game, right? It was just great. Cougs consistently, we figured out 5 wide receivers spreading out the Oregon State defense, right? Often limited to 3-man rush, right? The Beavers struggled to put pressure on de Laura, and he repeatedly found open guys, right? All the time, and there were open guys. I mean, it's like this is not the Oregon State team we've been looking at, that beat USC, that beat Washington, that only had 1 loss, and that was Purdue. They came in at 4-1. I thought this was the year for Oregon State. I thought that the stars were lining up to give a shining, just the stars were lining up, right? This is Oregon State's year to at least make a big difference and possibly win the North. I was wrong, right? They still have of course, a good season left. Second half of the season is coming up, and there's a lot of football left to play, right? Did you notice, though? I don't know if you noticed this, but Jonathan Smith did not have a presser after the game on Saturday. If you look at Oregon State's website, if you look at osbeavers.com, if you look at YouTube video, any of their official stuff, he has yet to put out a presser at all, any post-game from that loss. Now, granted, maybe that was the plan because they are heading into a bye week. There is no Oregon State this weekend. They're heading into bye, and maybe he took off on a recruiting trail or did some work or some out-of-town stuff. But basically, nothing about the loss. And, that was a bitter loss for the Beavs. And there are a lot of Beav fans at Martin Stadium that had their heads down. But you know what? They've got a good team, and there's a lot of football left, right, in the second half of the year. Cougs took advantage of good field position, and we tied the game with a 7-play, 50-yard scoring drive. And on the next possession, the Beavs put together a strong march downfield. We're in position to regain the lead, but Brennan Jackson intercepted a short pass, and the momentum is Washington State big time. I mean, we just had that. After Brennan Jackson intercepted that short pass, we had the momentum for the rest of the game. Pinned at our own 5, we moved down the field on a 7-play, 95-yard scoring drive. The Cougs scored on a 55-yard pass from de Laura to Joey Hobart to take a 17-10 lead. Yeah, Joey Hobart, right? Hobart. His dad is the Husky, right? Billy Joe Hobart. You take a look at that family. They're all of them are athletes, soccer players, football players, baseball players, man, volleyball, not baseball, volleyball, soccer, and football. The entire family of kids. Billy Joel Hobart and his son Joey Hobart, 17-10 lead. Beavs responded with a 2-play scoring drive in the game, but we regained the lead, and the Beavs once again relied on their ground game to even the score, but Oregon State's passing game was basically inconsistent. Chance Nolan completed 11 of 25, 158 yards with 2 interceptions. Delora had 32 of 46 and 399 yards and 3 TDs with 1 interception. So that's 2 wins in a row. Cal and Oregon State, we're on a roll. Let's not stop there. Let's just keep going, right? 2/3 of God's name is go. So let's keep going, right? I'll take that, right? So Delora had his best performance of his career, right? If you call 2 years in a row of his career. And I think that's with all the turmoil, all the turmoil that's going on with the program, right? If there's anyone out there that's wondering if the players are still playing for their coach, it's clearly that they are. This team is playing for Rolo, and you can tell. I mean, you think of this guy's gotten massive. I mean, think of how he wakes up in the morning, just the pressure. He may not even be our head football coach on Sunday, all right? I mean, Ryan Leaf is predicting that he is going to be basically unemployed on Sunday. All right, so nobody knows, right? But think about it, and this team is playing for Rolo. We saw Delora on press conference standing up. I'll tell you something. This team is finally molding together with the run and shoot. It took a few games to figure things out. The run and shoot is a complex, but I think it is a complex offense to run. And I think once you start figuring things out and everybody knows what they need to do, I think what we're seeing now is the offense just take off, and I think that's great. Hey, let's talk about Stanford, the Stanford Cardinal, next, coming up on the second half of the Podcast Coug.
Hey, Coug fans. You're podcasting with James Laurie and the Podcast Coug Radio Network. The Podcast Coug is your weekly Coug on Demand show, featuring all things Cougar football in Washington State. To help you get through the week, hit the subscribe button or check us out on iTunes, the App Store, iOS, Google Play, Stitcher, or at podcastcoug.com.
The real estate agent you work with matters, and a great agent helps you own the home of your dreams. And your dreams come true with James Laurie at Coldwell Banker Bain, representing clients like you 24/7, from condos to colonials and everything in between. If you're selling, buying, need a price analysis, or just a contractor referral, ask James, winner of the 2015 through 2019 International Coldwell Banker Diamond Award, with dozens and dozens of 5-star Zillow reviews and Seattle Magazine's 5-star award winner for 2018 through 2020. James Laurie, Coldwell Banker Bain, at 425-466-3672 or jameslaurie.net. Rock solid results.
You're listening to the Podcast Coug.
2 running backs in with the quarterback. Signals called. All man in motion going through to the right side. Handoff wings out to the right side. Touchdown, Washington State.
You are listening to the Podcast Coug.
Welcome back to the second half of the Podcast Coug. I am James Laurie, the Podcast Coug, where we're all things Cougar football, all things Cougs. Here we go at Stanford, 4:30. Martin, right? ESPNU. Right? It's fan. Hey, by the way, let's talk about ESPNU, right? We got 3 games this week, more than 3 games on Saturday, right? By the way, if you have Dish Network, and I know everybody's cut the cord, who's paying for cable, who's paying for satellite? Well, I can't let my Dish go. They're amazing in technology. They always have been the leader in innovation and technology since 1997. There's their little plug for Mr. Ergen, the CEO, amazing engineer. Listen, there are a lot of games on Saturday. We got the biggest ones in my book. You've got Alabama at Mike Leach, Mississippi State. Okay, I think that's at 4:00, right? And on ESPN, you've got our game, ESPNU at 4:30, and then you've got UCLA at Montlake for Washington at 5:30. I believe that's on Fox. So you got 3 games all mingling, running over each other. 4 o'clock, 4:30, 5:30 kicks. And Dish Network allows you to record 16 events at the same time. 16. Who does that, right? I mean, wow. So, it's going to be fun watching, isn't it, right? Alabama, Nick Saban at Mike Leach. Who would have thought Nick Saban and Mike Leach? Wow, that is so cool. Wouldn't that be amazing if, who beats Nick Saban? I mean, come on. There's no question about it. That is Leach's biggest game of his entire career. Boy, I'll tell you, that'd be his second time on 60 Minutes, right? Okay, it's family weekend, formerly dad's weekend. And hey, let's not forget about mom, right? Mom, that's why they call it family weekend. Forget the dad's weekend. I guess mom and Wally and Beeve, right? The whole family. Get this, $600 a night at the Cougarland Motel. You know that dump that used to be that, what's that? Cougarland Motel, I think. The old Chevron, not on Bishop, but the one on Main Street. It's no longer a Chevron anymore. It used to be a Chevron for like 40, 50 years. Across the street, there's that motel, right? $600 a night, okay? Right, and you got to book that 10 months ago. $1,200 a night at the Marriott, right? Next to the activity center, the golf course, the baseball field. $1,200 a night, 2-night minimum on both places. You got a dump for $600 and a $1,200 for a franchise Marriott, right? So, wow, that's just supply and demand. Kind of like it sounds like our real estate market, right? It's all supply and demand, 100%. So here we go. We got Stanford coming in, relatively duplicate. It's very similar to Oregon State, right? You got a blueprint. You got a few wrinkles there with Stanford, but they have, you have to adjust. But you know what? If you can go out and do some fundamental smash mouth football, some stringy defense with Dickert flying around, making some plays, right? You got to feel pretty good about getting one against Stanford, right? That's going to be 5 in a row, right? Now let's back up a little bit. Oregon State, 8 in a row. We win on Saturday, guys. We win on Saturday. That's 5 in a row. Who does that? USC, right? 8 in a row, Beavs. 5 in a row, Stanford. I'll take it, right? And that sets up to at least a great second half of the season. That really sets up a really good second half of the season. So really, really tough with a really good BYU team coming right around the corner. Are we looking ahead to the real Cougs? To the real Cougs, right? We are the real Cougs. What's with these BYU and Houston, right? We're the Cougs. You go to Houston or you go to Provo, I'm sure they don't call them the Cougs. I don't think they do. But anyway, Stanford, huge, big game Saturday, family weekend, the swagger, the momentum. Eventually, we could be at that postseason conversation. We are not going to talk about postseason. That would be very, very bad. But it's crazy. Preseason means nothing, guys. Everybody ranks everybody preseason. Even this prediction threads, every week, nobody knows, right? Always we are number 10 or 11 or 12 every year. If we went on Saturday, we might end up. We might. If we got BYU, these are good things, guys. This is really good stuff. Currently, Stanford is a 1.5 point favorite. Cougs have a 4. Well, like I said, we've won 4 in a row. Tanner McKay, he's their quarterback. Stanford is the key. It's going to come down to McKay and his O-line making the plays they need to make. They're throwing the ball more than previous Stanford teams. I mean, they're throwing a lot more. They've got good size throughout. They got good size receivers as well. The line is about when the line is able to give McKay a clean pocket, he's able to put some great numbers. He's got 12 TDs for the season. However, if he's under pressure, thank you, Mr. Coach Dickert. If McKay gets under pressure, things go south very, very quickly with Stanford. Their O-line has done a great job of picking up blitzes and giving McKay time to find a receiver downfield in looser coverage. But we're going to have to rely on Ron Stone and Brennan Jackson to get pressure on McKay. Amarni Marsh and George Hicks going to be key pieces in our secondary. So trying to slow down the air game, right? So Stanford is currently giving up 1 passing TD per game. That's it. Think about that. They're giving up 1 passing TD per game this season, basically because teams are running it more, right? So if we can effectively attack the Stanford secondary, the Cougs should be okay, make it 5 in a row, and I like it. Why not, right? Oregon State 8 in a row, like I said. Stanford 4 in a row, hoping for 5. What about McIntosh? Hey, what about McIntosh, right? Seems to be able to find holes that do not exist. We're seeing this, The jury is out. The jury doesn't lie. The market doesn't lie, right? At this point in the season, Deion McIntosh might be the second most important player on our offense. DeLaura, number 1. McIntosh, number 2. Borghi, number 3. Super important as Stanford's rush defense has struggled more than ever, as their pass defense so far this season has as well. So Borghi, McIntosh get things done, and then Stanford could be in a world of hurt. Slight underdogs, riding a 2-game winning streak, playing home on a family weekend sounds good, and a great chance to win a football game, right? So going to be a lot of fun for this weekend. It was a lot of fun. Great in Pullman last Saturday in Pullman. I flew into Spokane, actually, and boy, I'll tell you, you just blink on the airplane. You just nap for 5 minutes, and it's over with. The flight is so fast. What a quick and inexpensive flight going into Spokane. Had a great time in Pullman. Had a great time at the My Office, and saw other few things in downtown, which is great. And overall, it was a good day. A lot of empty seats in the south, where the season ticket holder adults students showed up. We got that noise going on, right? Want to emphasize and overemphasize lots of noise when Stanford has the ball, right? Okay, a lot of noise, and that's really important. And I don't know if you noticed last weekend, if you were at the game, this thing about the kiosks and getting COVID ID and a stamp on your wrist, okay, going to a kiosk and showing proof of your COVID card, or, we get to the gate, the guy doesn't even look at they don't even look at they didn't even look at our stamps. It's like, really? Okay, come on. Why all the press? Why all the hype? And they don't even look at it. So, they don't care. It's like inside the stadium. Nobody's the mask police, right? Nobody is. You just go in, you can, I'd say 95% of people in the stands are not wearing their masks. And on paper, you should, according to Inslee, in a public stadium, everybody is supposed to, but nobody's doing it. I mean, when I say nobody, I'm saying 5-10%. It's a football game. We're outdoors. We're vaccinated, right? So, and we're expecting another 25K. I think there's a lot of people that are not going to show up. I think there were a lot of people that circled Oregon State, just not in the beginning of the season. I'm going to circle that as a game I'm not going to go to just because of the opponent from history. Stanford, we might get over 25K, but I think it's going to be 25K for Stanford, right? So fun stuff, super exciting. Remember, we've got Nick Saban at Mike Leach. We got Stanford in town, right? And we've got UCLA at Washington. And they're all running into each other. 4:30, 5 o'clock, 5:30 should be great. Hey, that is it. Thank you so much for listening. This is the episode 7 of our 6th season of the Podcast Coug. Be sure to subscribe. Check out our website, brand new website at podcastcoug.com. It's Stanford at Washington State Saturday. God bless and go Cougs.
You've been listening to the Podcast Coug with your host, James Laurie. The Podcast Coug is your weekly Coug on Demand show featuring all things Cougs and Washington State Cougar football. This has been a presentation of the Podcast Coug Radio Network. Find us at podcastcoug.com.